Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al, week 5 Thursday night football, and we have got a fantastic game. Divisional battle between the Los Angeles Rams and the Seattle Seahawks, who travel up north to deal with them Seahawks, who have not been good defensively. And by the time the end of the year gets here, we may be looking at them as a really, really bad defense in context based on like the last 10 years, like that bad of a defense they could be against both the run and the pass. And if you're going to be a bad defense, you do not want to be in that division and have to play against the Los Angeles Rams. And as talented as they are this year, they will make the trip up north. A high-paced game, 54 total expected. The Seahawks, though, on open, were only 1 point underdogs in this game, as the Rams are favored in this one. So a closely contested, really high pace, really fast pace, great offensive environment. I'm very excited for this game on Thursday night. Hopefully you guys are too. So we're going to go through all the lineup building ways that we're going to take a look at, as well as some of the players that are involved, and see what type of combinations and how we should be building lineups. So drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell, and leave me a reply down below with maybe a way that you're looking for this game to go. Do you think the Seahawks are going to blow them out? Do you think the Rams are going to blow them out? Do you think it's going to go to overtime and be really close? Do you think it's going to be low score and underwhelming? Do you think it's going to be like 60 or 70 total points, where we're talking about this game as like an instant classic? And let's hit it.
He's a legend.
Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we have to talk about the quarterbacks, because we always have to talk about the quarterbacks, because no matter what projection system you use, and for the sake of these Thursday night or island games, Thursday, Sunday, Monday night, we always use the Fantasy Labs lineup builder, and it's something that I think that has been a great tool, great projections, as well as a really easy tool to build rules into for showdown games. So Cooper Kupp comes out as like the number 1 priced guy, but that doesn't mean that he is going to end the day as the highest scorer. What I want to do with my captain spot is make sure that I'm plugging somebody that I think can be the highest scoring player on a slate, has an access to that, has a path towards that. So I typically will limit the amount of captains that I use, and I build 150 lineups for the big tournament on DraftKings every single showdown slate. And I'm not trying to like say, okay, well, I want, 2 lineups with the Seahawks defense and 1 with the Rams defense and 5 with Will Dissly and some with Deshaun Jackson. Like, I'm not saying that they're not playable. I mean, I don't play the defenses there, but like, I kind of cut mine down to the guys that I think will be the highest scoring players. And to me, that's like Cooper Kupp, Wilson, Stafford, Metcalf, Lockett, Henderson, Woods, maybe, possibly Carson. So I'll use like a truncated list, but on a game like this with so many high total or high potential players, guys that can break slates on their own, I think we need to focus on those types of plays. Now, the quarterbacks are going to have the highest median projection, which means that they're going to be slammed into lineups for you if you use a lineup builder, whether you're entering the Minimax or the big tournament on DraftKings. So Russ Wilson, multiple touchdowns in 3 of the 4 games this year, 20 plus points in 3 of the 4 games this year. But his ability to get you like a 35 to 50 point game is much lower than somebody like Tyler Lockett, somebody like DK Metcalf, right? It's just the path to those types of games for quarterbacks are not there like they are for wide receivers in DraftKings scoring, because of the bonuses, because of touchdowns being worth more, and one passing point for every 25 yards versus 1 receiving point for every 10 yards. The ability for the receivers to pile points up, as you can say, if you look at like Cooper Kupp with 2 games above 30 fantasy points so far, and as good a season as Matthew Stafford has started with, only 1 game above 30 fantasy points so far. So the ability for those receivers to get there more likely, although the lineup builder is going to try and jam those things for you. So you're going to see a lot of the field play Stafford or Wilson at their captain spot. What we like to do is I like to try and limit my quarterback captains to like a total of 15%, unless it's somebody like Lamar Jackson or maybe a Jalen Hurts or Kyler Murray, somebody who could have me that 35 to 40 point game, and they're more viable in the captain spot. While Russ Wilson used to be a running quarterback, and he flashed that in the last game with that dive for the end zone for the pylon, they tend to not end up there as much, and I don't want to have like the field has like 25 to 40% of the captains tied up with a quarterback, I want to take more shots at the top with running backs and wide receivers or tight ends if they're highly voluminous tight ends. So what I do is I make sure that anytime I have a captain quarterback like Matthew Stafford, my line is going to be highly correlated. So I'm going to make sure that I plug Cooper Kupp, Woods. You can put Van Jefferson in there, who's been really good so far this year, getting a lot of run, a lot of snaps, and a lot of targets. Maybe at the expense of somebody like Robert Woods, who has not been monopolizing the market share of targets that he's had in previous years. Like if we go over to like NFL Savant and click on Rams here to kind of take a look at their target share from this year, and we can do it for last year as well. It's basically been Cooper Kupp with 35-ish% of the targets. Then Woods with 18. He's usually been at like 23, 24 in previous years. Van Jefferson eating up almost 14%. Higbee eating up 13%. Henderson getting a good amount in the games that he's played. Deshaun Jackson at like 7%, but he's the big splash guy who can get you there in just one catch. So he's somebody that you have to pay attention to. We're certainly going to include him in that group. Not going to include Sony Michel, not going to include Henderson. When you're talking about Henderson, though, this week, realize that the Rams are coming back on a short week, and Henderson playing his first game looked really, really good against Arizona with 19 touches in a losing effort. Really consistent so far this year in terms of his volume and snaps. Played 89.1% of the snaps at running back coming off of an injury. Monitor this. He said it was limited in practice on Monday's practice. So if they happen to give him a night off, which who knows if they will or they won't, we'll know 90 minutes before the game. If he's out, then Sony Michel becomes an amazing play. If he's in, then I'm going to go with the fact that Henderson is probably going to continue his 85 to 90+% snaps at running back and touches. But in his absence, Sony Michel would be pretty amazing. Going to include Higbee in that. And we'll also include the Rams kicker, as quarterback does correlate with kicker more so than people are willing to admit. And for the price plus floor that you get with a kicker in Showdown, because every point matters, very important. We'll also build a group with them, including every single one of the Seattle players. I'm going to do the same thing with my Russ Wilson at captain lineups, piling in Metcalf and Lockett and whoever the tight end is. Swain has been extremely involved for a low price this year in Showdown. Touchdowns in 2 of 4 games. That third receiver for Russ Wilson never gets any run in DFS, but always gets love during the season. Remember David Moore the last couple of years? That sort of play will pair Myers with him as well. And even though Disley was a disappointment in week 4, if Gerald Everett has not cleared protocols by that night, if he's in, he's the one we're going to include. If not, clearly we'll play his backup in that spot. What I do want to make sure of is that anytime that we have a wide receiver captain, so if you think that Cooper Kupp is going to bounce back here, he did have 13 targets, but like only caught 5 of them against Arizona, who did a fantastic job. If we have Cooper Kupp at captain, every one of those lineups is going to also have Matthew Stafford in it. Any Rams wide receiver at your captain spot will be the exact same, whether it's going to be Woods, whether it's going to be Van Jefferson. If you believe that this player at wide receiver or Higbee, if you believe that these guys are going to have a game that is worthy of them being the winning captain, which probably means they're going to catch a bunch of balls, probably catch for a bunch of yards, and likely have 2 touchdowns, is typically what it takes to be the winning captain on a Showdown slate, then that means that Matthew Stafford also probably had a score that you're going to need to have in there. Same thing goes for Seattle players. If you think that this is the week that the DK Metcalf rocket ship finally takes off this season versus because it hasn't, like he's been good, but he hasn't been amazing so far this year, at least not consistently. Even though he's got 3 touchdowns, he hasn't had those spike games outside of the one against Minnesota in week 3, and he had most of that in the first half. If you think that this is a week for him to have that spike week, we're going to pair Wilson with him, because if he has 2 touchdowns, 150 yards and 9 catches, Russ probably threw for 4 in that game as well. At least 2, probably 3. If we're going to have Lockett, same thing. If you're going to have Everett in there, same thing. I'm also going to limit in the flex to only 2 of the kickers and defense. Sorry, only 1 of both kickers and defense, and I'm probably not going to have any of these guys in the captain spot. I don't try to cover every spot. And if I'm going to have a captain that's a kicker or a defense, they win so infrequently, but they're so overplayed by the field that you're putting yourself in a bad position against the math. Albeit you only have to win it once. The problem is when you get what you want, how many other people are also going to get that same thing? So if defense and captain wins 0.5% of the showdowns as the captain, but 8% or 10% of the field is on that play, even when you win, you don't win the most, because there's going to be other people that are on that way more so than the math should dictate. And the same thing kind of goes for kickers. So I kind of limit to 1. Looking over at the lineup builder, here's the rules that you can build to make all of those things happen, whether you're playing the mini max, whether you're playing the 20 max, or whether you're playing the big tournament, the $2.5 million tournament. All these rules kind of apply. Or if you're hand building, just to see what a lineup builder can come up with, very easy to figure this out. Pair the captain quarterback with at least 2 of the wide receivers, tight ends, and kickers. Pair the captain quarterback with at least 1 of all the opposing offensive players, not a kicker. Pair the captain wide receiver with exactly 1 quarterback from the same team. Pair the captain tight end with exactly 1 quarterback from the same team. And limit to at most 1 defense and kicker from the same game. Apply those settings. Head over to the lineup builder. I like to build by ceiling. You can build by whatever you want. Projected points, which would be the median. I would not build by floor if you're trying to win a tournament. Projected plus minus, points per salary, or their rating based on whatever you've set in the model. And run your lineups. And that's going to give you like your 150 for that night. And then you can go through and tweak your combinations. You can build another group into it. The group that I like to build mostly is I pick 4 or 5 players, and I build a group right here that says use at least 1 of like a list of players that I think are going to be 25% or less, to make sure that at least one of those guys is in every lineup, to give me a little bit more of a unique look by the time everything is done, so that I don't have like the most chalky lineups. Because if I win a showdown, I want to win it with as few people tied with me for first as possible, which means I'm going to take on more risk, which means that I have less chance of profiting on the night. But I'm not trying to min cash, I'm trying to win all the cash. And that's the way you have to approach it. You have to be willing to take that small loss if you're playing those things, or take that big loss if you're playing those types of tournaments, because the ceiling when you win is much higher if you win with like 10 people sharing as opposed to 500 people sharing. I hope that this video helped you. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, and look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.